Welcome to ILTV's Israel Weekly, where we discuss the latest in Israel's geopolitical developments. I'm Aaron Porras, and returning to the studio today, our expert on the Middle East and Africa from Tel Aviv University, Professor Eyal Zisser, former Meretz Party Knesset member Avshalom Vilan, expert on the Middle East from the Begin Sadat Center at Bar Ilan University, Dr. Mordechai Kedar, and Dr. Martin Sherman, the founder and executive director of the Israel Institute for Strategic Studies. Now, today we will discuss the massive 6-week protest that recently began in Gaza and the accusations against the IDF of being trigger-happy that have since followed. So to begin, terror group and Gaza overseer Hamas recently organized over 30,000 protesters along 6 different points of the Gaza-Israel border to again press for the right of return for Palestinian refugees and their descendants to what is now Israel. Though the demonstrations began just a week after Hamas held one of its most massive military drills in history, the protest was advertised to be a peaceful sit-in type demonstration. But with reports of trying to breach the fence, live fire, burning tires, and whipping rocks and firebombs, the IDF says that the protest was anything but.
هذه المسيرة كما أعلن عنها القائمون من القوى والفصائل وكل مكونات شعبنا الفلسطيني مسيرة سلمية حضارية توجه للعالم أجمع رسالة أنه كفى للظلم وكفى للجوع وكفى للاحتلال وكفى للحصار.
بقول إن كان اليوم ولا غدا ولا بعد غد سنرجع إلى بيت دراس وسنرجع إلى فلسطين وسنحرر الأقصى وسنحرر جميع فلسطين بأمر الله تعالى.
يعني هم بتأملوا بيقولوا الكبار بكرة بتموت والصغار بنسوا، لكن لا، الصغار هيهم أطفال وقاعدين بيقولوا بدنا نرجع على أراضي أهالينا، أراضي أبونا، أراضي أجدادنا، بدنا نرجع. يعني الصغير عنده طموح يمكن أكتر من أبوهم وأكتر من جدهم.
All right. Now, Avshalom Vilan, I'll actually start with you. The 30,000 people that came to this border, do you think that we're going to see an uptick in the number of people over the next few weeks, or do you think it'll kind of fizzle out and die?
We don't know yet. I think that the crucial point is what we want. In my opinion, Israeli mission number one is our national security, meaning that nobody can get into the state of Israel without any permission. But having said that, there are the other 2 missions that I think are very important. Number one, I think that the name of the game, from Palestinian point of view and also from our point of view, is how many victims there will be over there and how many casualties. Now, in my opinion, according to Israeli and Jewish values, we don't need victims and casualties. From our point of view, I think that it's working against that, and let's say we are not there. The third point, which in my opinion really important, the name of the game in the end of the day is the battle of the international public opinion. And over there also, as much as the numbers of casualties are bigger, we are in a problem. So there's no doubt in Israel that we have to secure our borders by all means. But having said that, we have to be smart enough that we will not have any other conflict with other 2 matters that I mentioned.
All right. Well, we'll come back later in the show to the casualties and the use of excessive force or allegations of. But Dr. Kedar, what would you say, first of all, in response to Mr. Vilan?
Well, I fully agree with the Knesset member, former Knesset member, that Israel, like every other country, should not let anyone enter its space, its borders without any permission. And this is a rule which everybody all over the world agrees with. And unfortunately, states which do not know how to keep their borders are falling inside, as we see today in Europe. So we want to be different from Europe. And of course, we tell anyone who wants to invade Israel, well, stand in line and show your papers. If we let you in, you are welcome. If not, please find a better place. However, they are willing to invade not the occupation of 1967. They want to enter Israel proper. Means for them, the occupation is Tel Aviv, Jaffa, Haifa, Carmiel, Akko. Of course, then they say it time and again and again. So actually, they are not against the occupation of 1967. They are against the occupation of 1948. And this is what they say explicitly. And unfortunately, there are some people like Tamar Zandberg, the Knesset member or the head of Meretz, who call upon Israel, to investigate what happened there. What do you mean? I am a soldier in Miluim, in reserve. Whenever somebody is killed, I should be investigated. This is a knife in my back. My back. What do you mean investigation? It was very clear. People wanted to enter Israel in spite of all the warnings which Israel launched for more than a week. And so whatever. So it's not a game. And I tell those people in Gaza, go up, guys.
Professor Zisa?
Yeah, well, you rightly said organized, demonstration organized. It's not a bottom-up movement. It's not the Intifada. What you can see is an effort by Hamas to organize, to mobilize. And unfortunately, in Gaza, every second man is unemployed, and you have people with real social and economic distress, and even them are not ready to be killed on a daily basis. We touch here a sensitive issue. I mean, we are approaching the Israeli Independence Day. For them, it's the Nakba Day, the disaster of 48, and the Naksa, the defeat in 67. So I guess we'll see some more waves of incidents or demonstration, but I doubt it very much whether it will be developed into something real. And also, we have to remember the world is tired of the Middle East. I mean, we heard Trump declaring that America is to withdraw its troops from, they don't have any troops. Nevertheless, I mean, in Syria, 600,000 people were killed and nobody did anything about it. So, we have to face those incidents to make sure that they are limited in scale.
Well, okay. So now, Dr. Sherman, you were earlier agreeing with Dr. Kedar about how they want to go back to the
Of
1948
course.
borders.
What you're seeing now is a total collapse of the concept of land for peace and Palestinian statehood. There's a direct line from allowing Yasser Arafat to arrive in Gaza in 1994 and what's happening today. What you're seeing is an emerging strategic threat to Israel, and it must be treated as an act of war. And everyone who participates in it is an enemy combatant, whether he's armed or not.
So how would you appropriately respond to
You
this
have
act
to
of war?
you
then?
have to remove any doubt, the slightest shadow of doubt, from anyone who participates in that thing, that he will be met with massive force, including combat aircraft. The moment there is a danger, because everyone imagine that the next mass demonstration there will be 50,000, and only 50 or 60 or 100 manage to break through and take over a nearby settlement, and rape the woman and butcher the residents and burn the houses. What are we going to do then? Then you really need a commission of inquiry. I think we're doing this very likely. And the lower the casualties are when we confront them, the more likely that the next round will be even more. Because there's a clear algorithm here. When you confront the violence and you use minimum force to contend with it, you don't do anything except you don't deter. You
Encourage.
You immunate against fear. So the next time they'll come with more force, and if you use minimum violence to stop it, they'll be immunized against fear, and that's how it'll spiral out of control.
So I want to go back. Would you agree then? Because earlier you said that
Totally not. Totally
well,
not.
but earlier you said that the first priority should be the defense of Israel.
No,
so
but
is
what's
over-
also-
is the use of
I
overwhelming
want to
force,
tell you
why is that off the
something.
table?
National security, the defense of state of Israel, it has a few parameters. One of them, and the international public opinion, or what the Palestinians want now. I think Hamas don't want to. Hamas doesn't want that Israel will exist. Okay, but now they are not in the game, and from their point of view, last Friday they came back as a player back to the game. Now,
Exactly.
as much as casualties that they will have, they will be much stronger in the game. From our point of view, we have to stop them, but it's not
How
any
about asking them
target.
nicely? Ask them
Martin,
nicely.
there are many acts that can be taken, and it's sometimes
long do
to
you-
find
how
the
long do you want-
balance.
how do you
The
want to-
most important thing is to find the balance. To, on the one hand, to secure the state of Israel, the borders. On the other hand, not to have so many casualties. On the other hand, on the other side,
maybe-
which is
on
played
that note-
directly to their main target, which is to show the world that there is a
they're a
problem
victim.
and the world is to
Well,
take
I
care.
agree.
So-
I agree with you. I agree that public opinion is very important, and I've been advocating for years to spend 1% of state budget on public diplomacy.
well, we
That's
can-
that's over $1 billion.
Well,
With
let's
$1 billion, you will
let's come back
convince.
to that, because right now, moving on to our next topic, in the subject of casualties, in the wake of Hamas's peaceful sit-in, the IDF has reported 17 demonstrators killed in clashes, at least 10 of whom were members of terror groups. Their names have since been published. IDF spokesman Brigadier General Ronen Maneli said that those killed were engaged in violence, but with Hamas claiming that at least 1,400 people were injured, half by live fire, both Israeli leaders like Meretz's Tamar Zandberg and many in the international community have called for investigations into Israel's use of force.
Israel must uphold its responsibilities under international human rights and humanitarian law. Lethal force should only be used as a last resort, with any resulting fatalities properly investigated by the authorities. We will therefore also continue to urge Israeli security forces to exercise maximum restraint to avoid casualties.
These peaceful demonstrators posed no threats whatsoever to Israel or its heavily armed soldiers. Yet, its trigger-happy soldiers used live ammunition, tear gas, and rubber bullets to shoot indiscriminately at those non-violent protesters who were demonstrating inside the Gaza Strip near their side of the well-fortified barrier that separates them from Israel. How could that be condoned?
What we've seen over the last 24 hours is anything other than a peaceful protest. What we've seen is a violent riot in its clearest form. The Hamas terrorist organization have sent their people here to camouflage their true intentions, and we've seen that on the ground, just behind where I'm standing right now.
All right, so just before this next topic, we were talking about the court of public opinion. Should we be caring? Should we care about the public?
Yes, we should care about the public opinion. And one of the things the public opinion has to know is the Palestinian public is not a helpless victim of its terrorist leadership. It's the crucible that leadership emerged from, and that's what we have to drive home. As I'm saying, Israel has been completely derelict in presenting its case for decades and decades, entertaining this delusional idea that you can attain peace by giving land. And as I say, the situation that has coalesced now is totally the blame of people who allowed Arafat to return to Gaza.
Professor Zissel, would you agree that Israelis were being even remotely trigger happy on the border? Do you
No,
think
I don't think that this is the case, but let's not discuss, or debate with the public opinion, but follow our chief of staff, General Eisenkot, who said many times along his 4 years term as chief of staff that this is in the interest of the Israeli army, not to shoot at girls or Palestinian girls, or only if there is a threat to your life, then shoot. I guess that's what happened in the...
If 10,000 protesters approach the fence and are about to trample it, what
Well,
do you do?
I wouldn't suggest to bomb them from an aircraft.
What
We are
do
strong
you-
enough
what do you
not
do?
to...
What? I'd like to know what not to do. But what would you suggest doing? Not what not to do. What to do? 10,000 approach. They're going to take over a nearby kibbutz. What are they going to do?
There were 35,000 or even 50,000, I don't know, demonstrators, and 17 people were killed. But those who tried to approach the fence, tried to cross the fence, I mean, that's where you defend your sovereignty. But I don't think that this is the interest of Israel, not because of public opinion, but that's the military need to escalate, but on the contrary, to limit the scale.
Well, I would like to quote one of my Arab friends from Hebron. He once told me that a terrorist organization is not an organization which fights the enemies. It's an organization which fights its own people, the same people which they claim that they defend. What happens in Gaza is exactly this. Hamas, they are not fighting us. They are fighting their own people by sending them to the fence What do you think? That they will free Palestine by sending them to defense, by spending the money in tunnels and in weapons instead of spending money on the people? Because, they could pave Gaza with gold, with so money which came upon them during the last more than 10 years.
So where's our assault on world opinion?
But
Why doesn't the world get that message?
Of course,
Because
and
we don't
this
spend enough.
is what he meant by saying that Hamas actually are fighting their own people. And this is why they are terrorist organizations. And this, I think this is a very wise way how to look at organizations. If you look all over the Arab world, you see exactly this. Daesh were killing their own people by slaughtering them. Many other organizations, the same thing. They are fighting the same people which they think or they say or declare that they actually defend.
Maybe the
so
United
that
Nations will get the
point is that
message.
In Gaza Strip, all let's say the simple people, almost 2 million people over there, has no hope at all, has no future.
Because of
Exactly.
whom?
It's
Exactly.
their problem, but by definition, it's become our problem. And that is the reason that we are strong enough and we have to be smart enough to find a way how to analyze the situation and not to push it toward a radical situation
So
that they
some-
will have really nothing to
I
lose.
So there have been some suggestions then that we return to a policy of targeted assassinations, like those, leading up to 2011 and even occasionally after that. Would you agree to returning to that sort
This
of?
is not the case now because it's not the problem of the leadership. The problem is in this very moment that all the daily conditions over there
I agree with
are
you.
impossible,
I
and this
agree
is a real danger for us, not just for
I
them.
agree with him.
So
And,
how
and,
then-
and,
how
and,
then
and
do
the,
you
only,
real-
the only solution for Gaza is not reconstruction, but deconstruction. Not solving the problem, but dissolving the problem by instituting a massive initiative for funded immigration, incentivized immigration. That is the only way that you can diffuse the Gaza situation. Everything else has been tried. And we're reaching a situation now where there'll either be Arabs in Gaza or Jews in the Negev, but there won't be both over time.
Professor Zisa?
Well, we don't have right now a solution to the problem
we don't try.
of Gaza, and
So what about incentivized?
I mean expel or where
Enhance them
what happened in
economically.
48 happened in 48. Well, okay, but you know how to do it right now. I don't think that this is practical. So you need to manage
The only thing
somehow
that's- the only
manage
thing-
the
the only thing
problem,
that's not practical is a two-state solution.
not solve the problem. I mean, and the Israeli government, rightly or wrongly, accept Hamas. Okay, it's a terrorist organization, but Israel is accepting Hamas as the ruling power there, and
Is
you
it a
have to
mistake?
manage.
Of course,
I
it's a
don't.
mistake.
It's from the point of view of the Israeli government, it's not a mistake because the alternative is to send the Israeli army to capture Gaza, and that's something nobody in Israel is interested right now. So we manage the conflict, hoping that maybe in the future there'll be.
On what basis is there any hope?
There is one party which was not mentioned here, which is part of the problem, which is Egypt. Because Egypt actually blocks Gaza from the south, and between Israel and Egypt, the Israeli border with Gaza is much more open than the Rafah crossing, because we bring food to Gaza, which the Egyptians do
And
not.
thereby we sustain the problem.
And this is part of the problem. I would even say the bigger part, because since Egypt closed all the tunnels, the commercial tunnels between Gaza and Egypt, then the big problem started in Gaza. And they actually are externalizing the problems on us because the Egyptians, nobody plays with them because they know how to, they play business. And you don't mess with them. And of course, Israel is a soft country with opposition, with all kinds of, two Jews with four opinions. The Egyptians have one opinion and they do what they think they should do. And this is the solution, because what Israel should do is maintain pressure on Egypt to open the border and maybe give the Palestinians in Gaza some land in northern Sinai to expand to there, so the density in Gaza will be less.
Well, how is that different than
And
suggesting
This
Jordan-
might be a solution, because otherwise, just what the...
How is that different than suggesting that Jordan absorbed the West Bank?
It didn't start from the Egyptians. It started when Abu Mazen decided to close Gaza from his internal point of view. So who started this whole last process was the Prime Minister of the Palestinian, Abu Mazen and not
Yes,
the
which
Egyptians.
you support so
Hold
zealously.
on, but didn't
What
didn't
does
the
it mean with
issue-
your support? Did you see me once support them? What are you talking about?
Your side of the political
You
map.
we say anymore shal na'alecha ma'al raglecha when you tell me about my
Yes.
record, my family. I told you it
All
one
right.
time. Stop it. You are not more.
Look, I'm reading
the
what
security
your
of State of
party
Israel.
writes.
Stop,
It's
let's-
much more
I'm reading
important for you than to you.
I'm reading
Shut
what
up,
your
please.
party writes.
It's not the behavior.
And
The
I
second
still know
time
how
that
to
you're
read
doing it.
Hebrew.
Get out, please. So, okay, unfortunately, I think we've run out of time and we're at the point in time where we look for our good words. So let's take this opportunity to think of something positive that can result from the subjects we've talked about today. Why don't you start us off, Gedal?
Gaza should be recognized as a state run by organization named Hamas, and to be treated as a state which is a hostile until, just like Egypt as was a hostile state until they make peace with us, just like Jordan, who was hostile until they made peace with us, because when they understand that they cannot defeat us, then they make peace with us.
Taking into consideration the alternatives, cycle of escalation and bloodshed, what we witnessed during the last year or two was relatively a quiet period along the border. That's what we have right now. We should stick to the current policy by the Israeli government and the IDF.
We have in the last 5 years 3 military rounds. I hope that it will not have the fourth one, and we'll find a solution that we can secure ourselves and not start in another military round.
Well, my hope is that the Israeli public will finally wake up to the failure of the two-state solution and start exploring other Zionist complicit options, which I think the only real one is to incentivize immigration and remove the Arab prisons from Judea and Samaria, the non-belligerent Arab prisons by non-coercive means, and the belligerent the belligerent presence by coercive means.
All right, well, that's our time today for ILTV's Israel Weekly. Avshalom Vilan, Dr. Martin Sherman, Dr. Mordechai Kedar, and Professor Eyal Zisel, thank you all so much for coming in today. And thanks, of course, to all of you for tuning in. Remember to follow us on Facebook at Israel English News and on Twitter at ILTV News. I'm Aaron Porras. See you next week.